Petrasem Auštrevičiusem is a Lithuanian politician, economist, and diplomat who plays a key role in the European politics. He has been, yes sir, he has been a member of the European Parliament for 3 consecutive terms, representing Lithuania and working closely within Renew Europe. In the previous term, he served as a standing rapporteur in the European Parliament for Belarus, actively engaging in issues related to democracy, human rights, and security in the region. As Lithuania's chief negotiator during the Lithuanian's pre-accession process to the European Union, he played an important role in the country's integration into the EU. Petras, thanks for accepting my invitation. Great to have you here.
My pleasure. Dziękuję.
Petras, I want to discuss Belarus. We are a few days after so-called elections in which Lukashenko did achieve only 86 or 87% of so-called votes. We are still smiling that he could achieve as much as 102 or 110%, but that's just 87%. But jokes, leaving the jokes and talking seriously about what's happening there, I want to ask you first, where do you see Belarus is today? As a country, as a nation, as a society? And second additional question, whether Belarusians, do they really feel Europeans? Do they want to join the European community and at the end, the European Union?
Michal, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting, and I'm looking forward towards our cooperation as well as talks explaining our viewers what is going on in the European Parliament and in our neighborhood. It's very important, and this is our task. I mean, this is something what we have to do constantly. On Belarus, I'm looking at the situation. I can openly tell you that I'm very pessimistic about state of play in Belarus. If Ukraine is under direct aggression of Russia, Belarus is in hybrid attack. So, I mean, you don't see any, kind of bloody battles going on in Belarus, but under the carpet, Russian influence overtaking Belarus, taking away history, mentality is well under process. And election, so-called election, we had seen last week, it's one of the proofs that process will speed up. Now, Lukashenko will lose even more. He's a kind of a player, promising, not delivering, again promising, asking this and that. But, looking at means Putin has against Belarus, I foresee a very grim, very bad scenario for Belarus. Belarusians themselves, 31 years under Lukashenko, and this famous joke about Belarusian cats and dogs. You will find no cat or dog in Belarus which are not born not under Lukashenko. All of them are popular. It's a generational issue. It's a generational issue. You understand? And it is sliding down, selling, giving away sovereignty, being crucified every time, fake history, fake arguments. Economy is down and down, and he is always, speaking about great state of play in Belarus. Where does he see it? I don't see it. And integration into Russia and great relations with China. So these are priorities. And Belarusians, recently I appreciate recognition by the opposition that European course, membership in the European Union and NATO is or are major tasks, major goals of Belarus. Finally, it's good, but something must be done. To continue as we did before, I don't see really a possibility to be happy in future.
You said that absolutely rightly that the Belarusian opposition is now pro-European, and there is no no doubt about it. But I want to ask again, how do you see the position of the society as a whole? Do people believe that they could eventually belong to the European family, or they want to be somewhere in between, or rather they tend eastwards to Russia?
I think they are a bit lost in this regard. If you speak to Belarusians from western part, Minsk West, you might find more pro-European. More of them have visited Europe. They've seen themselves. Probably they have some family members or some of those who had to leave Belarus because of the persecution. But more to the east, you might see a bit more diverged picture. Let's say more Orthodox believers, more affiliation with Russian, let's say, speakers, more influence from TV, less traveling to Europe. So Belarus had a very unique, I would say, history in the last 35 years. Ups and downs, more open, more closed state. But I hope that they can be back to the European path if they are well explained and given a good chance to improve economically with the cooperation with Europe, some positive reforms, some kind of normal attitude towards people from the state, not like, as Lukashenko, as a father of a nation. Yeah. He speaks and he explains everything, what should be done by every person. So no freedoms, no kind of choice, this or that. No. The father said you have to do this and that, and issues are closed. So that's why I still see a chance. New generation is different. I don't think it will be so easy for Lukashenko to fool young generation, but let's admit, older generation, pensioners, they are, very confused. They are taken by radio and Belarus TV.
You already mentioned the Belarusian opposition. And I want to ask you about how do you see the state of the Belarusian opposition? You mentioned the youths, you mentioned the younger generation. The Belarusian opposition, I would say, is mid-age or rather older age. It's fragmented, it's operating outside of their home country for obvious reasons, from Lithuania, from Poland, from elsewhere. What's the current state of the opposition? We clearly see Svetlana Tikhanovskaya is a leader of the opposition, president-elect of 2020, also so-called elections, but she was running and we believe she was elected as a president of the country. But what is the today's state of the opposition in Belarus?
Interesting and complicated is that the real opposition is out of Belarus. I mean, there can't be opposition inside, and we know why. I mean, regime is very brutal. They follow each and every. Now they come, by the way, after people who made some comments or some record in social media 3-4 years ago. Imagine, KGB has power. KGB has a very bad memory. They never forget, you see? So, opposition is out. It means that they have more limited powers, to impact and to reach out population in the country. And it makes opposition sometimes, wondering, what should be done and which way should be done and so on and so forth. My message for Belarusian opposition is a very simple one. You don't have time. We don't have time. Things are moving into wrong direction. With Putin's war against Ukraine, it's the same war against Belarus. There is only way to change things in Belarus, it's to win by Ukraine. Only. So that's why I'm looking for more tangible activities of the transitional government. Sometimes I want to see more action in this regard, not just a political discussion, this and that. Of course, political prisoners, support for oppressed people, it's given. But we have to together with the Belarus opposition people, we have to engage into something more practical. Something more practical. So that's why transitional government for me probably should be renewed and energized under some
Broadened as well.
even broadened. Yes, I mean, look, in opposition, of course, we have a joint task. I mean, to bring Belarus back on democratic, normal kind of the road leading towards Europe, but some differences might exist. And within the opposition, I normally see people from the right, from the left and center. It should be accepted. And the difference of the opinions doesn't mean that, we don't agree. No, but on one thing we have to agree, what should be done at this moment of time, not just waiting, because waiting will not solve the situation itself. I see this situation going worse in Belarus. More control from KGB, more control from those security agencies, but with the support from the democratic world and some channels of outreach towards Belarusians, we have to send more practical messages to Belarusian people, but not giving up our major principles. Sanctions must remain. These sanctions not against Belarusian people, these sanctions against regime, okay? So let's not confuse, speaking about this. It's clear, but things might be changed and probably more cooperation with the civil society through culture and so on. Now, things are very clear. We have to simply save Belarusian identity and culture. Russification is all over. By the way, same happens to Ukrainian hostages and prisoners of war taken by Russians. Full Russification. They don't need Ukrainians, they don't need Belarusians,
Yeah.
They need people thinking Russian way. So that's why it's a great task. And to having this task, we need more energy and more probably coordinated action from Belarusian transitional government.
Yeah, clearly there's a pretty long list of our requests and expectations from the Belarusian opposition, because we do what we can do to support them, and we support the sanctions and the next sanctions. But obviously, we want them to be really active and come up with ideas.
Sure.
Not concentrating, not focusing on saying, nothing can be done. A lot can be done, and a lot can be done to prepare the society for the next phase, for the life after life of the country and the society. Finally, the question, what else we could do as the international community to support them? Which areas should we support the younger generations, and in what way should we support the media, which is the media which can broadcast to the territory of Belarus? Other activities?
Well, you see, if you look at the European map, Belarus is in such a center. Imagine, Michal, what kind of the business, culture, contacts, possibilities our countries will have once Belarus will be back to normality again. It's great. So we, especially Poles and Lithuanians, we have a historical task to explain Europeans who sometimes a bit on a slippery way. We don't see sometimes difference between Belarusians and Russians. There is. And there are many major differences between these two nations. Look, not looking far away, but Belarusians were uprising against Tsar regime in 19th century. Then they lost this kind of the sense of historical importance. So our task, our country's task, is to keep Belarus on agenda, explaining our colleagues in this House, European Parliament, what is going on in Belarus. Of course, financial support is needed, but maybe we have to be more practically minded and advising our colleagues not losing hope, because, you know, many of them are in opposition for 20 years. And I agree, they're a bit tired, okay? But, you know, there is no freedom to be tired.
Yeah.
No chance to be tired. Oppressive regimes are very concentrated, very up and running. So we have to energize our Belarusian colleagues and like-minded people with no less of energy, and probably giving them some advice from Solidarność times, okay, from 90s, how to run things step by step, but not losing this practical aspect and knowing exactly that this fight, along with Ukrainians, is an existential one. Now it's really a question to be or not to be. As simple as this, for me at least. And you know, I'm willing, I mean, to support as much as I can, and forget about small differences. You have to be. I speak to Belarusian opposition. You have to be united, and having, I mean, medium-term, long-term strategy, but making things happening now. Practically, preparing, talking, and first of all, assisting and being together with Ukrainians. This is only way forward. I don't see anything else, anything more in this regard. I'm sorry, I'm very blunt, but because, you know, I feel attachment, I mean, to Belarus. And I don't want, I mean, to speak about some general things and do nothing.
Yeah.
I better speak about some small things and do some practically every day moving forward.
This is the existential fight. I couldn't agree more with you, Petras, on that and on the future of Belarus.
Truly.
Thanks for this conversation. Thanks for your opinion. Drodzy Państwo, to jest nasza rozmowa o Białorusi. Rozmawialiśmy z Petrasem Auštrevičiusem o tym, co się dzieje i co się powinno wydarzyć na Białorusi. To jest rzeczywiście taki moment, w którym będzie się decydowała przyszłość tego kraju i przyszłość naszego sąsiada, sąsiada Polski, sąsiada Litwy, kraju, który jest dla nas ważny i powinien być ważny dla Europy, bo także na terytorium Białorusi, nie tylko na terytorium Ukrainy, ale także w Białorusi będzie się decydowała przyszłość tej części naszego kontynentu i nasze wzajemne bezpieczeństwo. Bardzo dziękuję za wysłuchanie naszej rozmowy. Do następnego razu.